Everybody. What I thought I might do today is thought we might recreate something like this scene you see here. This is a photo collage, montage. Sometimes people call this kind of thing photo bashing. So let's get stuck into it and let's begin and break this down. So I'm going to delete my state here. So what we've got here is four essential images plus a background. So I've got a picture of a rock at the front. We have a little bit of a hilltop scene. We have a castle and we have a tree. So we're going to put all these things together and make this really interesting sort of cool scene. So what I thought I might do first is just talk about how we're going to do that. And we're going to be using layer masking. And layer masking is a concept whereby you show or hide parts of an image. A bit like erasing, but not exactly. We call it non-destructive editing this. And that means I won't actually be deleting pixels, I'll just be hiding them. And I'm going to do that with the layer mask. And so I have my rock layer selected. And down at the bottom of my layers panel, I have so I've got a little icon here. It's a white square with a black dot in the middle of it. That's my layer mask, and I'm going to put that on. And when you do, nothing will happen because everything at this point in time is visible. There's nothing being hidden as yet. So an important distinction to note is that you can click on the mask and you can click on the layer. And for what we want to do, we want to click on the layer because we want to apply some paint, in fact, to this mask. So to do that, we're going to get our brush, B for brush, make sure we're in the mask, B for brush, and I'm going to use a nice hard edge for this because it's a kind of a hard edge object, and I might even just squish him down like this. So that's my brush set up. I think it's pretty good. I'll set the opacity to full. We want it fully hidden. And as you can see, I'm sort of cutting out here and I'm hiding, and then this is being reflected in my mask over here. And I'm going to turn on my background layer just so that we can actually see how that's working out. And yes, that's working out. So I'm just painting through on my mask, always being on your mask. I'm just going to paint this rock out just like so. So always with your masks, always cut in a little bit. And I'm going to do this really quickly. So painting on my mask, I'm cutting out, and I'm not actually being all that careful. Obviously, you know, for a big time piece of work, you might want to be a little bit more careful than I'm being, but I'm just cutting out my shape. And if I make a mistake, oops, I've made a mistake, I can toggle back to the white, and white will allow me to restore that image. And this is where layer masks are so powerful. We can and I'm going to change back again, and we can show and hide and have ultimate control over the piece. So I'm just going to cut him out and finish painting that little bit there. Get it through. And yeah, I don't want any of this blue area, so I'll just be painting it out. There it is. I've almost removed my rock. Make your brush bigger. If you've got a big job to do, make your brush bigger. And there it is. I'm nearly there. I've nearly cut my rock out. Fair enough. I've made a bit of a blue there. Bring some back. That's all right. And you can toggle between black and white by holding the letter X on your keyboard, and that'll just quickly toggle you between showing and hiding, in fact. So that's layer masking. And you can see my mask has now got this white dot. That means that rock is showing, and everything that I wanted to remove has been painted black. So I've layer masked out my rock, which is super cool, non-destructively. All right, so let's just put him to the side for one moment and concentrate on our castle. Now, I could do the same thing with this, in fact, but I'm going to show you a few more advanced techniques. It's really important to know what you're doing by painting in and out, as we did with this rock with our mask active. That's really one of the best ways to do it. But I am going to show you a few more automated ways to do this right now. And because this is a fairly smoothish background, and my magic wand might do the job, and I could hold shift and click, and eventually I could pick up all of my background shapes. I'm just holding shift to add to that. So I've got most of that there. Okay, and oops, I'm going to do that. I'll deselect that. So I can do it with my magic wand. I'm going to try another tool now. This is a fairly new tool in Photoshop. It's called the object selection, which is an absolute ripper. So I've got my object selection tool selected, I've got my layer selected, and I'm actually going to draw a marquee over the top of it like so. And Photoshop will do its magic and cut out almost the whole thing very, very nicely. So it's a really great tool. It's missed a few little bits and pieces here, so I might need to just add a little bit more to that. So I'm going to hold Option. So I don't want that part. I'm holding Option. I don't want those little guys. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so I've got my selection. Now, with my layer selected, I'm going to apply a layer mask to that. Bingo. How quick is that? Such a great little way to quickly get my selection done. Bear in mind, sometimes these quick selections aren't as good as you might do by hand, but they are pretty good on the main. So I've got my rock, got my castle, and what else have we got to do? We've got a little bit of a hilltop scene. I'm hoping to be able to put that on the top of my rock here. So this time I'm going to I might get my magic wand. Whoops, make sure you get your layer selected. Or my quick selection, I beg your pardon. Grab that guy like that. So I've just got the sky. That's all I've got of this layer. I'm going to hit mask. Boom. Now that'll happen. Now that's perfectly okay because it's given me the reverse of what I want. It's given me the reverse. My mask needs to be inverted. And the easiest way that I can invert a mask is click on my mask and Command-I, boom, will invert my mask, which is super cool. Anytime you select on a layer and invert it, Command-I, you'll turn it into the negative of whatever that was. So I inverted my mask, clicking on my mask, Command-I, and I can invert to get what I want. I've got a few issues here. That means that mask needs to be fixed up a little bit. So I'm going to get my brush just like the first time on my mask and I can paint that out. Beautiful. Job done. Job done. He's looking good. Okay. Excellent work. Okay, what else we've got? All our rocks done, our hill, our castle. So I've got this tree. Now, this is another way we can use masks and be a little bit more clever. Now, this is a fairly difficult thing to select, that tree, as you'll appreciate. It's got lots and lots of little negative shapes and things like that. So what I'm going to do this time, and I'm going to get that beautiful tool, that object selection with my layer selected, just going to hook a little selection around him. I think I only want the tree. That's pretty much all I want. I don't want that grass. I just want that tree. Boom. So I got a little bit of excess there. And so maybe I'll just remove that from the selection. I've got somewhat of a good selection of this tree. Not bad. It's not perfect. It's not meant to be perfect at this point in time. So I'm going to use this great feature in Photoshop called Select and Mask. And Select and Mask really is great for selecting things that are pretty difficult to select. Things like hair and fur and stuff like that. Really great. So Select and Mask, in we go. And we can see now we have a representation of my selection here in the Select and Mask feature. Now, there's only a few tools you really need to worry about here. And first things first, this tool over here that I have is called the Refine Edge Selection. Here's what we'll be using. But perhaps before we jump into there, you have this view here. This is my view. I can turn it into other kinds of view. So I can see different ways in which this selection will display. Personally, I like to use the on black and white version. And then what I'm going to do is get my refine edge tool, and the name of the tool says it all. You're really just running your brush around the edges of your shape, you know, so, you know, in the stem, probably not necessary. So cutting out, and you can see it's really refining, making a much better selection. Really great. I could never do that. Now I've got it to this point. It looks okay. I might just check back to perhaps the overlay and see that I've missed a few little blue bits and pieces. They've been missed. So I'm going to jump back into my black selection view and know with that selection tool or the refine edge tool that I've got to get into some of these little areas here that I know there was little bits of sky sleeping or peeping through, I should say, and just sort of painting it till it feels like I've got rid of all that blue. I'm just going to double check back again. Yep, there's a few bits through the middle I might need to pick up again. So you're going to run that refine edge just through some of these areas. Just one final check. Pretty good. That looks pretty good. You're great with me. Okay, so once we've got this, we've got a really nice selection going on here. What we want to do now is the bottom of this panel. I'm going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to output this output setting right there. What I want to do is output this thing, this selection. Now that we know what a layer mask is, I'm going to have that. Boom. And I'm going to say, okay. And there's my tree cut out in all its glory. Fabulous. Great job. Something very difficult to do otherwise. All right. So really, we've just got to put this thing together now. We've got to assemble. We've cut everything out in a non-destructive way. And now what I'm going to do is just start to assemble my pieces to give it that sort of look. So maybe you want to bring that guy down. Maybe your landscape. We might need to play with this a little bit, but that's fine. Maybe my castle's going to sit up somewhere there. That looks okay. And our little tree's gone somewhere. There he is. Now, one thing when you're putting together pieces like this from a variety of different sources, obviously there's 4 or 5 different images in this thing. You've got to look for the light source. So I'm just going to hide that. The light source is key. So if we were to look at the rock and the castle, they both have different light sources. The light direction is coming from, you know, the light source, left to right, and the shadow of my castle is on one side and the shadow of my rock is in the other. So we need to sort of fix that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip that castle. So Command T with my castle selected, Command T. I'm going to hit my Control key to flip that horizontally. And then my 2 light sources are starting to feel like they come from the same place, which is really the key. You'll go a long way with this sort of work if your light sources are not contradicting each other. That's a very important thing. Okay, so that's looking kind of good. So all I'd like to do now is bring some of that grass onto the top just to give it that sort of finishing touch. I want to make a bit of grass on my top of my hill here. So we've already put a mask on it. And what I'm going to do now is just start to add a little bit more to my mask. So I'm going to get my brush tool and just cut away. So I'm just feeling like it just belongs. So it's part of this scene. Okay, so that looks all right. Some there. Maybe I could cut a little bit more through there to show me a bit of that castle. Yeah, that's all right. Not too bad. Maybe we can get away with a little bit more there. Yep, good. That's good. I need to break the bottom of this line. It feels a little bit strong, a little bit sort of hard edge, a bit of a giveaway. So I'm going to get my brush. Just maybe I might change it a little bit. That'll do. We could play with all sorts of brushes here, but I'm just going to use a pretty straightforward one in the interest of keeping this tutorial short. I'm going to pop my opacity right down on my mask. I'm popping the opacity down on my mask. So this way I can just soften that line. And that's what you want to do. You want to soften that line. On my mask, I'm now painting on my mask with something less than fully black. So just to soften that line, so it doesn't feel as false. You know, now it feels like the grass is truly on that rock. And we're pretty close to done there, guys. That's pretty good. That's pretty decent, guys. One thing I might do now, I feel like I need another tree. I like my trees. So I think I might have another tree in here, but I'm going to do this thing a little bit differently this time. So I'm going to make a new layer. This is going to be my new tree layer. And with my pen tool, pressing P on your keyboard, P for pen, I'm just going to draw a line somewhere here. And I might just draw it up in the sky, just something like that. On a new layer, I've just got my pen tool. I'll do that again. Pen tool, 2 clicks, 1, 2, nice straight line. And I will now apply a filter. And the filter I'm going to apply is a super cool one. Where is it? It's called Tree, surprisingly enough. So Tree, and this is great because this is going to render me out any kind of tree that I like. And this is a super cool thing. And you can go through, you know, all these different tree types. Great for making little scenes and things. But palm tree is what I'm going to go with. Okay. And from here, you can change the light direction, the amount of leaves, all sorts of cool things from here. Bear in mind, sometimes this is a little bit memory intensive. So your computer would not be, it has been known to crash. So be careful. So I'm going to say, okay, there's my tree. It's built me a tree. How cool is that? So that's great. So I can have a tree there. Maybe I have a tree at the front. Might duplicate my tree. I might have a second tree. I might duplicate that. I'm going to duplicate that layer. Command D, Command D, Command D to duplicate a layer. Boom. I've got a second tree. Command J. And there it is there. There's my second tree. So that is my scene, guys, and you can arrange these things and dress them up with this. But like I say, I like to keep the tutorials fairly short, not spend all day, waste too much of your time. But this is how we do this castle scene. Great techniques involved to create this. Yeah, look, I hope that's been fun and helpful, guys. There's your castle scene. Good luck. I'll see you in the lesson.